Peace and greetings. This is Brother Grim Freedman. Joining me is Brother Ali and Naheem. We got the BTP team in the house. We going live inside the BTP group. And the name of this particular stream is We Do Not Accept the Titles of Subjugation, such as slave or slavery, because we are no longer slaves. We may be the descendants of slaves, but we are no longer slaves. Slavery is not the true nature of man. The true nature of man is not to be a slave. And I think that this is what everybody is missing in this whole talk of these new movements surrounding reparations. So in dealing with that, we have to understand that the nature of slavery had to be beaten into a man or a woman or a child. That is not something that is germane to the human nature to be enslaved and to be forced to do someone else's work, labor, or have intrusions upon the human body, such as scarification or maiming, rapes, and things of that nature. That is not the original nature of humankind. So we do not say that we are slaves, because we not. The nature of human beings is to be free. Therefore, we are the freedmen. Peace, brothers. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Peace, peace. What's going on, brother? All is well. All is well.
That's right. Yes, sir. Peace.
So what you brothers think about that, man, since we having our personal conversation and we talking about this and we making it live? You know, you have these people, they basically using the term slave and slavery and the slave birthright and all of that stuff. Is there such a thing, man, as of the birthright of being a slave, man? Real talk.
You go ahead. You go ahead, Naeem. Oh, I'll answer it.
No.
Yeah.
It's the no. Go ahead,
simply
Ali.
No. That's
right.
the short. That's the short and the long of it. Really, no. Like
No.
that's I don't even know where anyone would get such a thing from, other than, like I said, maybe they subscribe to this curse against Canaan. I don't know where else something like that would even come from.
Right.
It makes no sense to me.
Right. Exactly, man. It makes absolutely no sense when you look at it in retrospect, especially when you look at it in retrospect to the backwards philosophy, man, that surrounds such, like we say that we are freedmen because we've been on this path, man. What a lot of people don't understand is that we've been on this path for a long time, and
Right.
we've been studying this history, and it's basically, culminated into us basically resurrecting for the purposes of reparations, and the reparations demand the plight of the freedmen. And the terminology of the freedmen, we call it the Freedmen Philosophy. So we embrace the true nature of what a human being is to be meant to be, and is free. And we use that term because it is connected to the government records showing that a wrong and an atrocity had been committed against the people who were formerly enslaved. So, we got a lot to say, man, about these different people you talking about, they descendants of this and the descendants of that in regards to slavery, and asking us to embrace that stuff. I'm not embracing it, man. I'm embracing the fact that I'm the descendants of people who was broken, used, abused, their talents and stuff like that, man, was taken, and their talents were taken and used for illicit purposes, man. What you brothers want to comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say, in addition to that, when we talk about the birth slaves and birthrights, birthrights come to people who have the ability to exercise and who who can manifest that. So when you're talking about what we are owed, we're talking about a debt. Yeah. Now that we're the freedmen, now we can come and make a claim. But as a slave, you're not in a position to make a claim. So I don't feel like that's a proper term for us now. That's the term of those people who came out of that institution. And I prefer to use the term freedman because just like you said, we descended of those people who went through that horrible institution. We descended of people who was raped and had their labor plundered, and even their offspring stolen from them and sold, and there were people that were profited off of. But we're also the people that fought in the Civil War to the tune of over 200,000 people in the Union Army.
Right. Exactly. That's powerful, brother.
Yo, let me. I want to read
through and also survive through that. And now, through winning that struggle, we position ourselves to where even if you look at the some of the Freedmen documentation, we're going to be breaking down on the show, the next DTP program that we do on the Freedmen. We're going to be breaking down a lot of the documentation, but people in the United States Congress they knew exactly what we needed, what we were owed, and they were taking steps. They were proposing bills that highlighted that. So yeah, when we talk about what we're owed today, that's what goes to descendants of freedmen, not us. We're not slaves today.
Yeah, I want to read the definition of birthright. I just want to read this, right? And Ali has explained on prior streams that we have done that Google uses the Oxford Dictionary for its definitions. So when you pull up the definition of birthright, it reads, noun, a particular right of possession or privilege one has from birth, especially as an eldest child. Similar, patrimony, inheritance. The second definition reads, a natural or moral right possessed by everyone. Slave or slavery is not a birthright, first and foremost. It doesn't fit the criteria of what birthright even means if you are operating from the mind state of a freed individual. Now, if you're operating from the mind state of one who may suffer from mental slavery, then you may feel that the people who have played God in our existence here in America, the European, the white man, have given you a birthright of slavery. And that might be cool with you. And if that's cool with you, that's cool with you. But that is not my legacy. That is not my heritage. That is not my birthright. And I think that I can speak for not only my brothers on this panel, but for millions and millions and millions of us who have a hard time accepting the culture that we were bred from in the first place in the United States of America, which is slavery. And when I say bred, we are an amalgamation of various different tribes from the African continent, maybe a pinch of some of our people who may have been here already, who knows, right? But and other people who are in our gene pool as well. So I wanted to stress that you cannot be a slave by birthright. I can't, that'll be akin to me, instead of saying peace, freedmen, peace to my fellow freedmen, saying peace, slaves. Good morning, slaves. How you doing, slave? That makes no sense.
Right. Right.
And you know, I apologize. I got knocked off. My daughter is traveling today, so she called me from the airport and was trying to give me some information. But what I wanted to say before I got knocked off was that the slave birthright idea is something that's really contrary to the principles in the Declaration of Independence, that all men were born equal and had the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's not the culture of a slave. That is not the culture of the slave. According to what a slave meant is or meant to the people of colonial America and the people of the United States who were slaveholders or slave owners, the slave did not have the right to the pursuit of happiness and the rights of citizenship. The slave was not born equal in terms of what a man is as a creation of God. That's not what a slave is according to the people of the colonies, the people of this country. So I don't understand why someone would think that as a birthright, it is something that belongs to any specific tribe of people. Slavery is something that was found all over the world and goes all the way back into the ancient times, man. It's not something that belongs specifically to anybody. It's not something that belongs to anybody by birth either. You know,
Right.
they made it that, but that was a forced thing. That wasn't, unless you're trying to say the European is God. And by the European being God, he gave you this birthright. But the European is not my God. So it doesn't matter if by birth he made slaves out of my ancestors. That was a forced institution. That was not no divine thing. That was something that they forced because many people fought against it. Many people fought against it. And if they felt the same way about it being a birthright, there have never been any slave uprisings. There would have never been any rebellions against it. There would never been any abolitionism on the continent. Even be like this whole idea of abolitionism is not just an American thing. That stuff started even in Africa. There were people fighting against it. So no, it's not no birthright. Only a fool would think something like that.
Right. Indeed, man. And you know, and while you was talking, man, I'm thinking about it because I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do the research myself. I'm gonna have to admit. But the bottom line is that they tried to link these degrading, evil, wicked, which I didn't really look at it like that at the time. But now, man, when you start to, hindsight is 2020. And when you begin to look at these things, man, you realize that they're evil, demonic, wicked. They are Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. When you think about it, because anything that contributes to linking someone to a demoralizing character and a demoralizing institution, it can't be nothing but evil. And they tried to bring the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King into the sway by using the terminology descendants of slavery or descendants of slaves or descendants of Americans, descendants of slavery. They try to use those terms because Dr. Martin Luther King used the term descendant of slavery. But we have to understand the context in which Dr. Martin Luther King used that term. So they're trying to say that Dr. King used that term to basically create us as a special group, But all of that stuff, maybe you brothers have read that in detail. But I know they used that quote by Dr. King saying we descendants of slavery, to justify that.
Let me just jump in real quick, Grim.
Yes, sir.
Because in King's book, where do we go from here, Chaos and Community? When King is making that reference, what he's saying is we're not wholly African. and by descent nature, we're not wholly American, right? But we are American citizens. And he's giving our origin story here. And the point was to say that don't be ashamed of the fact that your ancestors were enslaved. That was the point, and him bringing that up in that book and trying to skirt around this historical fact by now claiming that you are Africa and that this event that basically shaped us, created a lot of us in a way, as I spoke of amalgamation earlier, didn't happen when it did. So I just wanted to interject my view of what I read from Dr. King in that book. And I think it was pretty clear what he was hitting at.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's clear. And let me just say this, right? Because the people who are using that particular passage out of that book are using it erroneously, right? Because they're trying to substantiate the label American descendant of slavery. That's not what Dr. King said. He said they were descendants of that we who are actually that are descendants of slaves. And that's what,
That's right.
see,
That's right.
the term he used was descendants of slaves. He didn't say descendants of slavery. Right? So the truth of the matter is, if they were really following Dr. King's explanation of that, they would have no problem linking themselves to the actual people. But for whatever the reason, they don't want to link themselves to the people. They keep talking about their descendants of the institution. My thing is, we're descendants of the people who survived in spite of that institution. Because of them, we're here. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here. So what I do, if I say DOS, I mean descendants of slaves. I'm not no descendant of slavery. Like, I understand how the institution of slavery and things like slave breeding was used to help to create a new group of people. But understand, before that, my lineage extends. Even before the slave breeding, my lineage is still going to extend past that. So that institution interrupted and altered what was there already, but that doesn't mean that the ancestry of my put it like this, my Wallach, if I am Wallach, if I am Hausa, that doesn't mean that that's not there anymore just because of slave breeding. That's still a part of my lineage. So yeah, they're misusing Dr. King's words to try to justify using the words descendants of slavery. It doesn't matter how you say it or try to flip it. You're not a descendant of slavery. You're a descendant of actual people who came through that institution. That's all I'm gonna say there.
Excuse me, slaves. I just like something, my fellow slaves. So
proceed, fellow slave. Proceed.
Well, I wanted to interject that just to build on what Ali was saying. Yeah, what term would you use to denote someone who made it through that institution to continue our descent line till today?
Say it again, Josh.
What term would you use to denote the individuals who made it through that institution to continue our descent line until today?
Ancestors.
I'll say freedmen.
Yeah, they're the freedmen. Exactly. So that's why that term is the most applicable, because it doesn't when we talk about slavery, that's speaking about a horrible institution. And we do want to make those horrors known, and we do want to speak those horrors into existence. I mean, not into existence, but just when we speak the words, we want to make people think back to that. So we want to use that term slavery is good. But what it leaves out is the triumph against the institution. And it does not evoke the people who, the era of the people who came out of that institution and started to build something and achieve some things. And when we use the term freedmen, you think of Reconstruction, you think of all of those type of things, and it links us closer to today. So I think that's the proper term,
That's right.
and that's why the United States federal government, in addition to countless, and not just the federal government, but countless historians and writers, always use the term freedmen or freed people because
That's
they
right.
knew that just being a descendant of a slave it doesn't tell the full story. It doesn't. It doesn't even give the credit for people to from that fought to get out of that institution. But the term freedman better applies. So I just wanted to make the distinction because hey, there's some people that still want to hold on to that particular term without going back and linking themselves into the. I don't want to. I don't want to continue. We know how the rest of that statement goes. But anyway,
Accept your lot. Accept your lot in life.
Mhm.
And that was basically a terminology, man, that was used by those particular people for us to accept perpetual slavery. And it was a supreme conspiracy, as you all know, to keep our people in slaves and inside of a slave mentality. And billions and billions of dollars or equivalent to dollars were invested in divesting us of our humanity. So one of the things that they told us was to accept our lot in life. And by using that terminology of a slave or calling somebody a slave, see what slaves need to know and what slaves need to learn, like you using the word slave in lieu of Negro or Black or African American, it's quite pathetic when you think about it. But in order to accept those things, it's saying that you have a lot in life and you accept. And what you are accepting is being America's slaves. And of course, people are going to invest in your dreams and desires if you build an institution, meaning, the conservative people who may gravitate towards that. Of course, they're going to invest in you and support you because they believe that even though you are physically free, they want to have some type of vestige of that institution, man, for your life, But that's not for me and my brothers, if I could speak for you brothers, because we'll talk about the here and now with the Freedmen connection. But the most important and I think interesting thing about us, brothers, is that not only can we tie this thing back to the institution of slavery, the freedmen, the slaves themselves, but we can go beyond that to overseas into our ancient history and tie that in. That doesn't mean that we are it doesn't mean we are stuck in the past, but
That's
it
right.
means that we can connect in a universal history that has brought us to the spaces that we are in. So I don't tell people not to study ancient history. I
Right.
don't tell people not to connect themselves in. And I don't think if I'm speaking for you brothers, interrupt if I'm not telling the truth, but we all connect into an ancient heritage. And I think that with this whole slavery thing and this whole slavery talk now that's going on, basically, man, what that robs us of is the connection to something more ancient than ourselves, even past the institution of slavery, And I think that that's what's wrong and a deficiency of this whole slave culture thing too is our lack of connectivity to that which is ancient. And we know that we produced a great culture coming out of slavery. We understand that, but the slavery is not our culture. We were just a people of ingenuity that, as they say in the church, right? make a way out of no way, and improved our resilience in surviving those institutions. Because one thing, even with the people that's running around talking about they're not black, or they're not African American, or they're not Negro, right? And they say that they the indigenous or autochthon aboriginals, MERS of the land and all of that stuff, right? These people miss out on a great opportunity to connect to something great. These people miss out on the Freedmen history because they make up things because they are ashamed. Oh, and the point that I was trying to make about the autochthon thing is that we have to learn and really research and study the true history, that when the colonizers came here to colonize this place, they wiped out entire tribes, but they couldn't wipe out the forefathers of the freedmen when they brought us here.
Exactly. Let me say, right, all nations have suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers, right? All nations have suffered slavery. And they all rose to become great and mighty people. To touch on Brother Grimm's point about tying back into ancient history, we've done several streams because we identify ourselves, for the most part, as Moorish Americans. I'm not BP, but I know that I identify myself as a Moorish American, and which basically connotes that I'm a Moor. Now, in doing some research many years ago on the origins of the Fez, I found that in Rome, when a slave was manumitted, he was given a red cap. It was called the pilus. I could be saying that wrong, a pileus or a Phrygia cap. And some have translated that to mean a freedom cap. And when we look at the lithographs of the 15th Amendment, for instance, that we showed on one of our live streams, I believe it was last month, just last month, it showed the freedmen in celebration of the 15th Amendment standing with this particular headdress on, this fez. And I'm just tying this into what freedmen look like universally, spanning through the historical records. And for those of us who identify themselves as Moors, we wear the fez. And once I learned that information, I always looked at it as a symbol of freedom. And it was confirmed more recently with our team and our looking up these lithographs and the symbolism behind them, right? So I just wanted to jump in and tie the universality of what a freedman is, although that particular term and how it's spelled is unique to our people. Freedmen, not freemen, freedmen. I wanted to bring some historic or shed some historical light on that fact that all nations suffered sin and slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. We familiar with that terminology. That's why y'all heard Josh laughing not too long ago. Some of these bars we be remixed, right? So I just wanted to jump in and tie that in because when Brother Grimm was talking, it brought me to that thinking, like, yeah, we have a history that ties back. Some of the things that happened to us in the United States of America happened to us in Spain after the Moorish Empire fell. They cannot wear their names anymore. They have to go by Christian names now. They cannot speak the language that they once spoke, the Mohammedan language. They must now speak the language of this empire. They cannot even wear the dress of the Mohammedan anymore. They must wear the dress of this empire. We read that on our platform. It was a decree under King Philip II against the Moor. So I just wanted to just tie that into the fact that we have a history of slavery and and subjugation and oppression. And we every time we've risen above that. And there's not a people in the history that I know of that still identify themselves as slaves, because in this context, it denotes that you are a slave to a human being. You will find Muslims who call themselves Abid, right? Which means slave of Allah, an incorporeal being that lives in the, I guess lives everywhere, matter of fact, right? Because it's the all, everything that we attribute to a God that is greater than ourselves. Well, that's something else, right? That's the devotion to a set of morals and principles, etc. But when it comes to this phraseology in which we're trying to use it, it means we're still subservient to the European, whom is called the white man, and heathen is our God because he had the power to change the descent nature of our ancient forefathers. I just had to jump in and touch on that.
You know what's interesting, because I have a slightly different take on what you were saying, with particular regard to the creed and principle part. I understand, like, so for instance, when you take like the conversation that was had last night, and you get people who cling to slavery, right? Who cling to being the idea.
What conversation?
Yeah. It was a dream.
It was a dream.
Yeah. That shit was like a dream or some.
We were all having the same dream.
What they call that, fucking night terror or some shit. Like, anyway, it was a delusion. I don't know what the fuck happened. But yo, so when people cling to the idea that slavery is your birthright, or the idea that you are actually a slave, right? To me, that is a prime example of not honoring the principles in the creeds of your ancestors, because I guarantee you there's no creed of your ancestor that's going to tell you that it is your birthright to be a slave. I don't care if it's in the Yoruba creeds. I don't care if it's in the creeds of any of the West African traditional religions, or if it's the Christian creed. I don't care. I ain't gonna say the Christian creed, because I think I don't know what's up with the Christian thing, but I know I don't think Islam. I don't think the creed of Islam tells you that it is your birthright to be a slave. Any of the creeds of our ancestors, I guarantee, don't tell you that it is your birthright to be a slave, right? And so that, to me, the idea that someone could cling to the identity of slave tells me that you don't honor the creeds, which don't tell you that, the creeds of your ancestors, or the principles. I guarantee you there are hardly any principles that you can find in any of our West African traditions, in our American traditions, that tells you that you're supposed to be a slave to anybody.
Well,
So
I
that's a
would.
prime example. Go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say, well, just like you say, you had a slightly different take on that from Naheem. I don't even know if it's a slightly different take. I think it's just adding on to what you're saying, maybe slightly. But you mentioned you don't know about the creed of Christianity, but we know about the Noah's curse, right?
Yep.
That he placed upon his son. So, would you consider that a part of the creed that makes people think that their birthright is slavery or servitude?
What's interesting. him getting cursed, I don't understand how that translates into uh Black Americans being cursed with this same ancient mythical curse of Canaan. I don't, like, so how does that make, like, first of all, you'd have to believe that Black Americans are the Canaanites to even accept that as being our fate, our birthright, if you will. You'd have to believe that the Black Americans are actual Canaanites. Outside of that, I still don't see how it's relative. I still don't see how it applies. But
was that the doctrine that was taught
in
by,
terms of you talking
white
about,
Americans and former slave owners is to justify
Absolutely.
enslaving in America?
yes,
Absolutely, that was taught by them because
yeah,
they basically had to use that to justify the institution. It was two things that they had to use, was religion and science, or I should say pseudoscience. So for the people who didn't believe in the religion to participate in this evil, wicked system and to tolerate its existence, you had to justify religiously. And for those who wasn't in the religion, you basically had to justify it scientifically. So if you wasn't a Canaanite or descendants of Ham, damned to slavery, a slave to his brother shall he be, then you were basically two notches up from a monkey or on the same level of a monkey. So absolutely, that thing was used. And it's funny that you bring that up because I find it ironic that in the conversation, Brother Ali Bey, basically, Brother Ali brought this up because that was one of the foremost statements of the Confederate statesmen, excuse me, when the war first started. And Ali probably can go into that particular quote better because he always goes into that what's that Confederate statesman name? And that's what he quoted was that whole Canaanite thing.
right. What is his last name? I know it's the Cornerstone Steve.
Alexander Stevens.
Alexander Stevens, Vice President of the Confederacy.
Confederate president, and that's the first thing that he resorted to. And I just find it ironic that you're going to ask. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but how you going to be 80 years old? You follow what I'm saying? And you never heard that freaking story before. You're a goddamn liar and a bullshitter.
That's true.
And you basically trying to escape the topic by saying that you never heard about that. That's one of the first stories that I heard when I was a child coming out the Bible. And my mom breaking that stuff down to us and explaining us that's what they use and they use it out of context and this wasn't real and this is what they said. So for you to say that, even if you some type of agnostic now, for you to be 80-something and scores years old and don't know that, you're a goddamn liar,
Fact.
And that's all I have.
And if not, it may be worse.
Yeah, you're a goddamn insane. I'm sorry.
Facts. Hey, there's a lot of intellectual dishonesty surrounding things of a political nature. This is part of the experience of this whole game of politics, right? And you see what happens when a businessman becomes president of the United States. everything gets screwed around in some kind of way. So I'm glad we having this discussion because it's needed. I think the mentality of slaves and slavery insofar as organizations and in the thinking that has had a deleterious effect on how many of our people think. It has actually produced either cults with cult members or aspiring cult members that quite couldn't get their cult up off the ground. And this is dangerous insofar as the process that is needed in moving forward politically, number one. And in order for us to move forward politically, history has to line up correctly. How we identify politically has to be on par with our ancestors here in the United States of America for the greatest amount of efficacy, period. So, this discussion is very, very needed.
I agree with that. I
Absolutely,
agree
brother.
with that. And I will say too, in terms of the the idea of honoring the creed and principles, I think that for many people, slavery is an issue of dominance, and the idea that one man has the right to property and another man. I think it's more of that than the idea that the victim of something like that is a victim because of something that they did or didn't do. In terms of honoring the creeds and the principles of their forefathers, I think that there were victims of that who were victims because the other people feel a certain way. They were able to act on their feelings in terms of their exercising dominance over the people. I don't know that it was due to not honoring creeds and principles as much as it was the fact that you had wars that were taking place. You have victims of wars. You had the overthrowing of certain powers. We already know the stories of the overthrow of the Islamic powers in Europe and how the Christians came out of Europe with the intent to spread Christendom across the world and to dominate under the banner of Christianity, to dominate and to take and possess lands and territories and things of the former Islamic power of Europe. They wanted to return the favor, basically. So I don't know. I don't know. That's why I say I have a slightly different take on it. Now, when you speak of a person like, organization like, well, the people who claim to be slaves, I can understand how that can be the case now, particularly from a psychological perspective. Uh, psychological slaves, in the sense that you accept the identity of a slave, and you accept the idea that being a slave of someone else, or being black people being the slaves of Europeans or so-called white people in this country is somehow your birthright. It's something that God gave to you, and it's some kind of divinely prepared thing specifically for you and your people. Yeah, by doing that, you're really not honoring the creed and the principles of your forefathers, and you definitely are not honoring the principles of the Declaration of Independence, speaking
Mm,
about all men being created free and equal. So it doesn't,
That's right.
it goes against a lot of principles. Goes against a lot of principles.
right. And another two more things that I want to address too, man, is that and Josh made me think about this. How somebody's going to ask you something, and this also ties into what Naheem was saying as well. How are you going to tell somebody when they ask you a question, right, that they said, well, for the white man, this wasn't personal, this was just business, right? How could a statement come out your mouth so foolhardy when this thing was personal? You follow what I'm saying? Because if it wasn't personal, it would say, oh, well, slavery wasn't just personal for the white, wasn't personal for the white man. It was business. He didn't have no kind of way he felt about it. It was just business. Man, that's an evil, wicked, demonic, devilish, horrible statement made by a man of African descent.
Talk to him.
I'm sorry?
No, I said talk to him because they was sleeping with our sisters. That ain't sound like no business to me.
I'm about to say, rape is not no business, it's transaction.
Yeah, right. Not only were they sleeping with our sisters, but they was able to do that and pass specific miscegenation laws against the descendants of Africa or the descendants of freedmen, males, or even the slave males from sleeping with their women. It was punished by absolute death. So that junk was personal. If one of those overseers or slave masters thought that one of those slaves messed with any woman of Caucasian descent on that plantation, it ain't even had to be a trial. He was dying on the spot. That's personal. That's right. That's not business. Because, and to tie this with what Brother Naheem was saying about the wars and the stuff and the people going into slavery, to tie that, people don't realize that the history is important to tie in, because we have to realize that we weren't always in a space of servitude in the world, and that a lot of these things that resulted in the slave trade, that resulted in human chattel and people being shipped all over the planet, was the outgrowth of wars that were going on between European powers and principalities and African powers and principalities. Y'all understand what I'm saying? People don't really realize that prior to the slave trade, we were warring with a lot of those people. The Portuguese tried to make several incursions into West Africa and rebuffed. Our Moorish brothers and sisters went into Europe and conquered Europe. And even during the foundation of the United States of America, they still had powerful black navies sailing the seas who were actually grabbing European ships, robbing them of their cargo, and even robbing some of them of their persons.
That's right.
So for you to say that it was just business for that man shows that you don't study, that you don't read, that you don't research. When you say it was just a business transaction. And not only that, that gives supreme cover and supreme credence to European civilization for you to make such. That shows that you don't study.
Actual fact, man. I mean, look, you're telling nothing but the truth at this point, man. Nothing but the truth. I don't see how anybody could think otherwise. I really don't. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Unless there's some kind of hustle with something. I don't know what's going on. But I don't see how anybody can think anything otherwise, bro.
Exactly. So, it shows that, these people standing up and wanting to be leaders, whether they're young or old, a lot of these people are unqualified. And y'all know that, and I'm about to kind of make some kind of a confession here about myself. Y'all know that I get weary of this stuff sometimes, man. I get weary of this stuff sometimes in this particular work, man, because the level, and I'm using these religious and spiritual terms on purpose, but the level of wickedness and the level of deception that go to these people that are actually making these comments, that are actually making these claims and are standing up to be leaders of our people, they gain power and influence and money. You follow what I'm saying? But the real true teachers remain poor. Like the brothers say, poor righteous teachers. You follow what I'm saying? And
Yep.
those things irk me because our people are hard to lead in the right direction and easy to lead in the wrong direction because they follow these people, like Naheem called them, like cult members. So now what we have is we have a bunch of groups now, and they are basically almost making like a quasi cult surrounding the whole slave thing. And we're not just talking about one group. You follow what I'm saying? We're talking about all of those groups now. The group that started it and the group that stole it from the group that started it. You know, and it's just a goddamn shame, man. And y'all know, man, I get weary of this stuff sometimes because it's not just the economic, political, and the socio-economic thing that we are dealing with. We dealing with these people. It's an evil spiritual influence, man, that there's some things beyond our realm of understanding that has its interest in things that are going on upon the plane of things made manifest. In other words, the physical plane in regards to the resurrection and the standing up and the success of our people upon the foundation of truth.
Yes, indeed.
Brother Naheem, what you think
Indeed.
about that if you still with us, brother? Because a
Oh
lot
yeah,
of
I'm
that
still.
ties into the wars that you talked about as far as, you know, people losing their freedom and subjugation in the creed of their forefathers too.
Oh no, I mean it ties into all of it, right? When we're looking at this thing in a broad scope, even if that broad scope has to be looked through or can be looked through with one eye at a time to narrow the focus of what we're looking at or what we're looking for, we see a lot of emotional trauma tied into this whole fight. And some people get into this thing that are genuine. Some people get into it because it's a man, I can't stand this word anymore, but it is a grift. And it goes back to that Booker T. Washington statement about wanting to keep the Negro grievances out front. And what better way to do that than to latch on to the history of our slave ancestors in a way that it only brings material gain to you and some degree of name notoriety. And that's it. It brings nothing else. This is definitely the basis, or it's based in moral and corrupt spiritual interpretations that tie into what you were just saying about the things on the plane made manifest, right? All of these things that we engage in, particularly from an intellectual level, that help us form movements in the first place. Movements are usually formed against oppression. So when you have a pseudo movement that is not formed with the purpose of alleviating that oppression and that pressure, but only for name recognition and to be held as some new civil rights leader or as some Moses, et cetera, then what it does is it damages the next generation coming behind. And we have been blessed to walk through a series of schools of thought, which is what my brother Grimm was alluding to not too long ago when he said he gets disenchanted by a lot of this stuff. And my brother Grimm will fall back in a heartbeat. It is what it is, right? But We are in a position now that we are not going to let any of it slide. I believe that the ancestors have laid a great deal of power on us in this resurrection. Because if not, we wouldn't be at the point where we're at now. We just would not be here dissecting this information, reading the Freedmen's Bureau's bills, even resurrecting the term freedman, which is now being used all over social media, all
Right.
through Clubhouse, all everywhere you see this term freedman. They had a whole vote the other night on a group. What term should we use? ADOS, DOAS, or freedman? And by the time I got in the group, freedman was clearly leading the pack because it makes sense. It makes sense. So those of us who are connected spiritually to this thing, out of the want of it to be done right, out of the want to alleviate the pressure of oppression, that energy is now starting to move with us. And I'm not trying to make no divine or say we are some divine revelators. We are just carrying on the work of our ancestors. The men like Garrison Frazier that Sherman and the War Secretary Stanton sat with after the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment. We're just carrying on that. We're doing our best, at least, to bring the conversation so that we can carry on that freedom fight, so that we could reclaim what was promised to us under those Reconstruction Amendments, specifically drafted for freedmen. We are in a unique position, and I think it's time that we take advantage of that. I really do.
Yes, sir. Man, that was powerful, brother. That was powerful. I think that was one of the most powerful things I think you ever said.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I'm just joking, man. But I mean, yeah, man, that's the thing, man. Where we at, man, in dealing with this thing. And we have to separate the real from the fake. And for me personally, man, this stuff sometimes makes me lose faith in humanity, because all of these people, man, usually have these disingenuous motives and these disingenuous presses forward with their own agenda, and they try to use other people, man, to stack the deck on behalf of themselves. I wasn't raised like that, man. So even in this, like I was telling you brothers earlier, I was saying, even in this late day, as far as well, not late day, but even in this day of the age that I'm at now, man, I'm still actually learning people and learning the nature of people, and like some of the lowest of the low, that people will stoop to get influence over other people in the guise of doing righteous or pretending that they are doing righteous acts, man. And it's just a disenchanting thing. But I want to move on to the next thing, man. May I ask you brothers a question? Is there such a thing of a reparations movement without cash payments?
I beg your pardon, I've never heard of one. We're using all the terminology.
Right.
Without cash payments. That's insane, brother. Like, I don't even, oh gosh. Where does this stuff come from? Where did they get this from? Obviously, the idea is there's no amount of money that can ever actually repair the debt. There's no amount of anything that can repair the damage that was done. So for instance, I used the analogy of losing a limb in a car accident, right? So if someone is in a car accident and their leg is amputated because of it, they in turn have the opportunity to sue the person who caused the accident, if there's someone who caused the accident, another driver. and they can then be compensated not only for hospital bills but for the injury itself, etc. And certain policies will cover up to however many hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever the case is, they can sue for. You can't tell me that because the person lost their leg or lost an arm or whatever, that the cash payments are not due because it will never repair the arm. It will never reattach the arm or the leg. That's not the point. That's really the fallacy of besides the point. That's an actual fallacious argument called beside the point. The point is that regardless of the fact that you can't repair the arm or the leg, you still owe for damages. You still owe for damages. It's the principle. You understand a lot of it has to do with the principle of the matter, as well as the fact that in this particular instance with reparations for Negro chattel slavery and the racial targeting that came along with Jim Crow and so forth, is the fact that it caused an economic problem for our people. And so even though we can't fight, the country may not be able to financially compensate for all of the actual physical damage that was done, the economic damage can definitely be addressed. So for them to consistently talk about cash is the last thing that we want, or cash they will never be able to pay for all of the stuff that was done. Well, nobody's talking about paying for everything that was done. We're now talking about addressing the economic damage and fallout that came behind all of that. And so can that be
Excellent
addressed?
point.
Yes, obviously. Yeah. You go ahead, brother.
Oh no, I was just agreeing, man. I was just saying that was an excellent point. You can't get that leg back, but yo, you gonna pay me, man. It's as simple as that. That was an excellent point.
Because even with the loss of the leg, let's say you were a construction worker and that was your bread and butter for you and your family. So now you lost a leg. Are you still a construction worker? Are you still able to climb up on, you understand what I'm saying? That caused economic fallout. So you can't tell me that, yeah, because it's, I'll never be able to replace the actual leg that he lost, that he doesn't deserve any money because money can't fix that. Yeah, but there's an economic fallout behind it because now the physical labor that he was able to do with that leg, he can't do. And he can't provide for their family the way he would have been able to had he not lost that leg. So now you have to address that issue as well. You can't just skirt that with these fallacies, these fallacious arguments that these people want to consistently advance. That doesn't change the facts.
Man, that's powerful what you brothers say, man, and that's the thing, no restitution has never been given to anybody, from the simple court case to multinational United Nations cases, man. Nothing has never been repaired in dealing with anybody with anything without no fucking money. That's just the bottom line. Without no money, excuse my language, brothers. No restitution, no repair, no what the term the Moore brother used. Oh no, it's not reparations, it's compensation.
Compensation.
Compensation, restitution,
no dealings when somebody is disenfranchised and the disenfranchiser seeks to make that person in some shape, form, or fashion whole. Nothing. This has never been done without giving the person something of value. Period. You can say, "Oh well, you know what? We gonna give them a bunch of businesses." Well, everybody don't want to be a business owner. I got people in my family that don't want to be business owners, but they deserve to be made whole. You can't say, "Well, you know what? We're going to give them a bunch of scholarships." How you going to tell a 73-year-old lady you go give her a scholarship. She don't want to go to school, but she want to be made whole in her lifetime.
That's right.
Right. And she want to have.
That may be good for her grandkids. I'm sorry, Ali. That may be good for her grandkids or her great grandkids. You understand? But that's not good for her. And she, being the age that she is, suffered more than her descendants. So how you gonna tell her you gonna give her a scholarship or give her children a scholarship? How is that restitution to her?
It's stupidity, man. Stupidity, yo.
Or
There's
maybe
no other
you
way
could
to say
just heal her mind of all the trauma that she's been to, and maybe that'll be reparations.
Right. Crazy.
Or like the immigrant jackass said on the thread that I was on yesterday. I'm an educator, and I can be your reparations by teaching your kids.
That's crazy. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
You know, and that's why I always say that this thing, man, is socioeconomic, it's political, but it's also profoundly spiritual, because it's a spiritual disease in us as a people that would make them, and even the people that's surrounding us that's not our people, that makes them make that claim against reparations. So this thing, man, is physical and it's divine and it's spiritual, because it can't be rooted in nothing else. When you can logically say that you can fix anybody, we'll go bomb a nation, tear the nation to scraps, hire all kinds of contractors and paramilitary contractors and construction workers to go there, rebuild their banking systems, rebuild their infrastructure. And we can't even do that for a bunch of people running around Chicago that we know have not only suffered from slavery, but from the illicit and illegal drug trade that the government allowed. They're running around Chicago, they're running around New York, running around New Orleans, running around Atlanta, running around Compton and LA, killing each other. You know, we make it a horrible thing, but we don't link it in to the disease of slavery and to the disease of the illegal things that happen and the disparaging of our community by businessmen and politicians. And we can't even accept the goddamn check. That's a spiritual disease. That's a mental disease.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a disease that has been passed on. It's an infliction. It's crazy. I say it's an infliction because it came from Europeans. It's a European psychological thing that has been inflicted on our people, and our people take it and they try to impose it on other folks. So you wind up with these Larry Elder types, these Herschel Walker types, these Darrell Scott types, etc. These people are inflicted with that European disease of whatever you want to call it, but it's a disease, an infliction, and then they try to take it and impose it on other people. You know what I'm saying? Particularly, they want to impose it on our people.
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening here. And we got the armor of the gods on us. We got the shield of the ancestors surrounding us. We have living altars that we have set up inside of ourselves that we make constant sacrifices to by just doing what we're doing and trying to continue on the legacy of freedom fighting, so that this evil, which manifests itself as these mental and spiritual deficiencies, won't ever corrupt us. That's why I tell people, if we ever change up, call us out on it, because we are going to be consistent, because we've been consistent. And the only thing that ever changed was the information that we received, where we upgraded. Information has come out and have replaced old information that wasn't right and exact. That's it. That's it. So nobody's gonna corrupt us with their mental deficiencies. Nobody. And their spiritual deficiencies. So you definitely made an excellent point right there.
Yes, indeed, brother. And yeah, man. You know, my whole thing, man. Give me my check, man. Let me do me. I'm good. And the bottom line is that we'll be, you know, I'll pull myself out of poverty. You know, I guarantee you I'll pull myself out of poverty. And seems like my brothers dropped off, but it looked like we having a small little technical difficulty. But we gonna get through this demonstration. Yeah, everybody back in now. Sounds like we had some issues. Can you brothers hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just trying to reconnect my earbuds to the phone, but it's weird. Like when the phone call came through, it kind of knocked off my earbuds.
Yeah, I went through the same thing.
Yeah, definitely, man. But yeah, you know, man, it's just like you know, man, people basically you know, feeling what they saying. I'm gonna just go through, you know, some of the comments. You know, somebody said Freedmen represents triumph. That's exactly right. Said this term gives hope of future endeavors. The institution of slavery lasted over 250 years and seemed unending, but it did. Freedmen is an encouraging term and shows that we can achieve the impossible. You know, I mean,
That's
powerful,
right. That's right.
powerful statement. You know, and
That's right.
yeah, man. But it just shows, you know, that these people talk about they businessmen and all of that kind of stuff, and you know, it just shows, man. Them people would do anything, man, to hang us up on the cross, you know. And sister Riri, she said we can't allow the lames to stop the spread of right information. Y'all are doing the right work, the much needed work. Stay strong, brother Grim Freeman. BTP is a much needed entity.
Shout out, Sister Riri. Peace, peace.
Peace, Queen. And we appreciate Sister Riri. She does some great work in the community, man. And you know, maybe one day we need to talk to Riri and interview Riri. We ain't interviewing no more lame people. We gonna interview Riri and we'll talk about her work, what she's doing. I saw that food. She was you know, them plates that she was talking about on her page, you know. But we need to talk about, man, some real good, genuine human beings, man. You know what, brother Naheem, man, we ain't entertaining no more disingenuous human beings, man. If you don't mind, bro.
No, man, no more. And sometimes it's hard to tell until they're in front of your face, unfortunately.
Right.
But you know, we're gonna do what we do would be the power. At worst, we'll just keep putting our disclaimers out. And at best, we try to get the best interviews that we can. I think we have some powerful people coming on the stream over the next couple of weeks. I really look forward to it. And we're going to continue to grow the platform. We're going to continue to build. We're going to continue to have these discussions. And like I keep saying, when COVID starts that break and we're able to get out in the streets the right way, it's time for the political work, the boots on the ground political work to happen. I'm so excited. I can't sleep some nights because I'm so ready to get busy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And some, you know, somebody said something too. I wish I could see the identities, but I guess some of the identities don't come through on when you streaming straight to Facebook. But somebody said you can't get weary because your truth is important. It needs to be heard. We need people who are genuine so people can see what being genuine looks like. Your presence is needed, you know.
Honors.
Appreciate that, fam. Appreciate that.
So
You know,
that's the thing, you know, because I know how you feel, Grim, and I know how it is with you in many instances in terms of like, yo, I'm gonna fall back. But a lot of people are actually affected by, you know, positively affected by the things that you bring, the things that Naheem brings, you know, that the brothers all together bring. And we see it with just this whole Freedmen demonstration. The last comment you put up, you know, really kind of explained how people feel about that, how that Freedmen terminology and language actually is affecting them in a positive way, you know. And so, yeah, I think we've been put here for a reason in this space. We're in this space for a reason. And obviously, there are people who don't like the fact that we're present in this space, but that's because they're disingenuous. And right, and like the last commenter said, we need to see genuine people, not disingenuous people. So, I think we're having a positive effect, even though we have to fight against, certain principalities. It is what it is. That's going to happen. As long as you're trying to tell the truth about things and trying to do something good and do something right, you're going to wind up having to fight with somebody because the opposite is going to always be true. There's going to be people who want to be hustlers and swindlers and, as they say, grifters and stuff. But, and then they project that. Grifters want to project that on other people. So because they know that they're grifting, they use projection and put it on you. He's a grifter. He's this or that. But that's because they know that that's what they're doing. You know what I mean? And to take the heat and the attention off of themselves, they try to project that onto you. But real people can see that though. People who are real can see when that's actually happening. So I appreciate the folks who recognize the genuine nature of the brothers at BTP.
Right, and that was Sister Cynthia Blaine who made those previous statements. Thank you, sister. We greatly appreciate it. I don't know why you're not showing up, but we got you. We greatly appreciate your love and your support. And
That's right.
we just start repping, man, genuine people, man, on this demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I just can't understand how a man could stand up and be like a great teacher, And some of the things, I could feel, what he was saying, and I give you a pass because you were elder. But then when you really realize, man, how disingenuous and lame that stuff was, man, it'll just basically blow your mind, man. But
right.
the bottom line was this: I want to well, let me ask you, brothers, got anything else y'all want to build on?
I'm good. I mean, I think we touched on what we needed to touch on with the slave culture and the slave mentality that people want to uphold, whether it's the word slave or the word slavery. I think we knocked that one out the box, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But I don't have no other topics that just off head that I could think of. Maybe I'll leave.
I have one. Tonight there's gonna be a debate.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The debate topic is, can reparations be achieved in the United States without Pan-Africanism?
I'm gonna put the flyer up too.
Yeah. And so we're gonna have our brother, our comrade from Be the Power, the Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, debating some individual who stepped in the line of fire that was really for Greg Carr, who was claiming that he wanted smoke. And so this guy calls himself Omawale Africa. He acting as a diversion to try to take the attention off of Greg Carr and to try to use the situation and BTP's influence as a form or a way for himself to come up and to try to push this Pan-African, Afrocentric ideas concerning reparations into the public. The problem is nobody knew who Omowale Africa was, right? All of our attention was on Greg Carr, professor from Howard University. And, this guy stepped into, he jumped on the Twitter thread where all of this was happening and injected himself into the conversation and was begging for a debate. He wanted the attention instead of us giving the attention to Professor Carr. There's an article on Moguldom. I think it's called moguldom.com or something like that. If I'm not mistaken, y'all can let me know if I'm wrong, but I think it's called Moguldom. And the article on Moguldom is entitled something about Omowale accepted the debate from Logic from BTP. The problem is he didn't accept no debate. He begged for the debate. He consistently begged for it. Anybody who has access to those tweets on that particular Twitter thread can see that the conversation was with Greg Carr, and he jumped in it and was begging to have a debate over the subject. He set the terms, he set the topic, everything. So at the end of the day, this was not about him accepting a debate. This was about him injecting himself into the conversation and begging for a debate so he can push his Pan-African and Afrocentric ideology. But that's tonight. What time? Y'all got the time and stuff? Y'all put the flyer up?
I'm trying to find the flyer right now. If you have it, Ali, I'll share it, but I can't find it right now.
It's at 8 o'clock tonight. I'm about to pull it up in one.
Yeah, because it's on this particular, it's not going to be on Be the Power platform. It's going to be on what he considered to be a neutral platform. He, again, the Omowale dude chose the platform. He chose the subject. He chose the moderator. He chose the format of the debate, the layout of the debate. He chose everything. So this was really his, this was something of his making. Had nothing to do with BTP issuing him any kind of challenges. Again, nobody knew who the guy was.
Yeah, I think I got it right here, brothers. I'm about to go ahead and share it.
Yeah, the sister who's moderating her name is Zakia something. I don't remember her last name, but she has her own platform on YouTube. I'm assuming it's on YouTube, her particular platform, and she will be the moderator. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the image of the flyer should be coming up any minute as the brother is loading it up. And so hopefully, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get like a pretty good amount of people who are going to be tuned in. Maybe maybe Roland Martin. I'm sure Roland Martin and the rest of them will be tuned in too, because this kind of
oh yeah, he's going to be listening. Yeah, he's going, because he retweeted Dr. Carr's tweet that I made trying to call me a fool. Roland was trying to help Dr. Carr back up out of that smoke he asked for, and when BTP and plus other Freedmen Reparationists jumped on them threads, and we was just flame royal cooking these dudes. They was like, they realized that the smoke that they thought they wanted, they didn't, because it was the smell of their own flesh.
I like that. I like that. Niggas are smelling their own flesh, man. Word up. Like, yes, we not those black Republicans that you was messing around with or none of that crazy shit, man. I don't know, or them Yvette or Tone or none of that. So I don't know what you thinking, but this ain't that.
Yes, indeed, man. And that's the flyer. Can reparations in America be achieved without Pan-Africanism? And we ain't gonna go too much into it because we don't want to step on Brother Logic's supreme toes, because we know and understand it. If this moderator, which I don't know the young lady, I've personally never heard of her. If she's a fair moderator and she gives the allotted time for each debater, we know that Brother Logic Supreme is going to basically clean the floor with the claims that's being made by this particular brother.
Easy work. Easy work.
Indeed.
Faulty foundation.
Indeed. You know.
Yeah, so.
And I mean, I could answer this question with one word, but I'm not gonna do it. And we all can actually, you know.
Everybody,
but like I said, I'm not gonna,
brother.
Huh?
Anybody with any sense can answer that with one word.
Right.
Can it be done? Of course. I mean, yes. The flat out answer is yes. Yes,
yeah,
it can.
but we ain't gonna go too deep into it because we don't want to, step on any of the brothers, toes, So we gonna be in the building, supporting our brother Logic Supreme because, man, this topic has to be addressed, man. And one thing, looking at the perspective, with a lot of brothers like the FBA brothers and sisters, and what they've basically, and I'm not gonna get too deep into this either, but basically, what those people were able to do is expose the hypocrisy in regards to foundational Black Americans and descendants of freedmen, and the disdain that, which we all know that the whole world is subjugated in anti-Black rhetoric when you really get to the root of it. But they've been good at exposing how, these different groups of people come here to America and disparage freedmen and freed women. And you can't get around that. I mean, before we was talking about all of this stuff, y'all. When you go back to what is it? Was it New Jack City, or was it the movie with the drug dealer brothers, and they had the Nigerian drug dealers, and they were trying to do business, and the first thing that the brother said, no, we don't do no business with the Kata. What was that movie, and the brother beat him down in the club?
I think it was New Jack City. Man.
Was it New Jack City? And
I think so.
Right. So, with that being said, man, we just those things of disdain, let's just be honest, that stuff had already been out there. But the reason why everybody is mad at FBA people and people like BTP in this forum with the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is that we basically for all intents and purposes have found out that this junk has been a detriment to our people in moving forward, and that our all-encompassing umbrella of support and compassion with all melanated people, the terminology that they use, that stuff has not been reciprocated. And now that we are starting to see that it's almost a cultic anti-Black Americanness, a cult of anti-Black Americanism. Now everybody want to be mad at people for exposing it, and this is what I take issue at. Like I say, I don't hate no Pan-African brothers and sisters. Me personally, and this is grim, I don't even tell people not to be Pan-Africanists. I don't tell people not to be Pan-Africanists. I don't tell people not to be Kemetic. I don't tell people not to be cultural. But what I tell people is to examine the facts, and examine the facts that we have a Sierra Leone and we have a Liberia that was set up by freedmen on the African continent. Well, particularly Liberia was set up by American freedmen. And even with that, we still don't have the respect for African American people who were born here, the foundational Black Americans, so to speak, and the descendant of freedmen. They don't even respect our sacrifices. Dr. King's great-grandfather was a slave. He was a slave, enslaved. But they don't respect the sacrifices that people have made and died for, to even open up the borders for them to come here. And somebody said the movie was Sugar Hill, so it wasn't New Jack City. Thank you. But you know, the bottom line is that they don't show the reciprocal love. And then they have the power of true nationalism surrounding the ability to aid and assist us over here. And none of them have used their diplomacy on behalf of African Americans. And that's all I'm going to say.
Indeed, indeed. So we looking forward to tonight, man. I can't wait. And we already know what Brother Logic is going to do. Easy work. It's not even a debate. This is going to be class in session. So I definitely look forward to it.
Absolutely. And guys, we got the flyer up. Omawale, Africa versus Dr. Logic Supreme. It's 8 p.m. tonight. Do we have the channel or a link to the channel?
Not yet. But as soon as we get it, we're going to share it out.
Absolutely. So we didn't come up on an hour and a half, man. This was a good show. I appreciate you, brothers, man. And all of the good work y'all doing in the building, y'all doing, man. And I appreciate you, brothers, man. I love you, brothers, man. I can't say nothing else, man. And I appreciate you, brothers, building and coming on. This was a good show, man. And
Oh yeah.
it was a good show.
Love you too, brother.
And man, let's keep up the build. Let's keep up the work, man. Like, you know, we get through the other side of this COVID thing. The last thing I'm gonna say before we come out for the nationality people who say all of this stuff is happening because we don't have a nationality. That will be addressed coming up soon too in the future. And the United Nations does have a designation for stateless people. Stateless people are even recognized and compete in the World Olympics. When you see the Olympics opening up, you see all of the nations come. They coming through, and I guess the parade of nations at the Olympics. They have a classification in the group of people that parade that are basically called the classification or called stateless people. So the governments of the world do recognize stateless people and the humanity of stateless people. So we'll see y'all soon too. So if you brothers ain't got nothing else, man, I'm gonna say peace.
Peace.
Peace, y'all. Love y'all. And y'all take care. We out.